Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality coming back with you today with an article from The Federalist from November 2nd. It says the pro-Hamas left is warming up for real violence. And the headline itself was pretty alarming, so I figured, what the heck, let's go over this together to find out what's going on. So the subheading says the emerging red-green alliance is poised to plunge the country into a spat of civic violence comparable to the summer of 2020 or worse. That's fantastic, so let's get into it. Let's talk about bad timing. On Wednesday, the White House announced a national strategy to counter Islamophobia, the necessity of which, according to awkwardly scripted remarks by Vice President Kamala Harris, is that Muslims endure a disproportionate number of hate-fueled attacks and other discriminatory incidents. Yeah, I love how like Ju- Jews get slaughtered and murdered and everything, and the White House's response is Muslims most affected. Okay, yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense there. And plus, there's absolutely no statistic to back this up anyway. It says, leave it to the Biden White House to pick a moment when a wave of anti-Semitism is surging across America to announce this. Set aside the dearth of evidence that Muslims face persecution or discrimination in mainstream American society. Last year saw a record for anti-Jewish hate crimes, breaking the previous record that was set the year before. Since the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel, anti Semitism has erupted in our cities and on campuses, this time with the imprimatur and cooperation of the identitarian left. The idea that now is the time to address Islamophobia is so out of touch with the reality of the moment, only the Biden Harris administration could have possibly come up with it. Yeah, no kidding. Just the incompetence of this administration is beyond anything. It says, but the announcement inadvertently serves to highlight a rather disturbing development in our civic life. At this point, some 3 weeks removed from the Hamas slaughter of 1,400 Israelis, it's hard to deny that we have a domestic constituency for Hamas in this country. Generally speaking, it's comprised of a broad swath of the woke left together with a broad swath of Muslim Americans, united in what amounts to an unstable red green alliance. It's also easy to see that this Hamas constituency is warming up for a season of real violence. That's probably going to be next summer because it's an election year, so I have a feeling that's when it's going to happen. We've all seen the recent videos of self-righteous Hamas sympathizers tearing down posters of missing or kidnapped Israeli children. In almost every case, their actions are accompanied by either a defiant callousness or a dead-eyed nonchalance. Pleading with them or interrogating them is pointless, as every person who has tried to do so on camera is quickly discovered. These people are anti-Semites, and it's not possible to shame them out of their anti-Semitism. They own it gladly. Yeah, that's a problem. So it says, but this week, a different sort of video appeared on social media. A group of Jews in Manhattan's Upper East Side physically protected a bunch of posters of Israeli, yeah, it says physically protected. Okay, bunch of posters of Israeli child hostages from an anti-Semite who was trying to tear them down. The man, who of course covered his face with a keffiyeh, tried to force his way through, and a scuffle ensued. Eventually, a cop pulled up and I'm sorry, not tried, and appeared to arrest the man as the crowd gathered. So, and here is the embedded tweet showing that. So we're going to skip over that. You can certainly see it in the link below and pull up the article and check it out for yourself if you'd like. It says the incident illustrates the violence lurking just beneath the surface of the anti-Semitic pro-Hamas sentiment now manifesting all across the country. The kind of people who are willing to casually rip down posters of children taken hostage by terrorists are not those who have any kind of principled commitment to nonviolence. They might or might not individually be cowards, but they clearly have no problem with violence as such. See, for example, the BLM posters celebrating Hamas paragliders who slaughtered more than 250 Israeli concert goers on October 7th. Yeah, that was about as tone deaf as tone deaf could possibly be. Like next time I do like Webster's dictionary comes out and has like tone deaf in there should actually be a picture of this. That's how bad it was. So this is especially true on our nation's college campuses. This week at Harvard, whose students have staged some of those blatant and vile pro-Hamas demonstrations, including straightforward calls for ethnic cleansing of Jews, a group of keffiyeh wearing student or waving students surrounded and then assaulted a Jewish student who was simply trying to get away from them. Yeah, and one of those people was oh, this is actually goes right into it right now, so I'm just going to keep reading instead of commenting by myself. It says some of these assailants have been identified, like Ibrahim Barmal, a student at Harvard Law School and an editor of Harvard Law Review, as well as Ilham Teddy Tamaklo, a student at Harvard Divinity School. Yeah, and this guy is Ibrahim Barmal. That was the guy I was about to say that like he was an editor of the Harvard Law Review. Yeah, so you can go find that out. And I'm glad he was named. Name him and shame him. That a Harvard law student feels free to harass and assault Jews on campus, the opposite of what we should expect from a student of the law, suggests not only that anti Semitism on campus is a real threat to Jewish students, but that the pro Hamas woke left is growing in boldness and is reasonably confident it can target individual Jews on campus with impunity. And I wonder if this article, because I haven't read this yet, is going to go into what happened at or what I don't even remember what college, was it Yale or somewhere, where there was a kid, or it was Cornell, I'm sorry, where as of right now, as I'm recording this, they found the guy who was making death threats against Jewish students. It was an Asian kid. So I wonder if this article is going to go into it. So again, here is an embedded tweet where you can see this editor of the Harvard Law Review attacking a Jewish student. Was a John Levine called the Harvard assault a LARP pogrom, which is essentially what it was, or exactly what it was. And as we know from 2020, left-wing riot and assault LARPers eventually get around to the real thing. Indeed, all the elements are falling into place for a season of civic violence of the kind we saw during the summer of 2020. The White House's ham-fisted campaign against Islamophobia is all the confirmation you need that Jewish Americans, not Muslims, are the ones in real danger right now. This is something of a pattern on the left. When a dangerous or unstable element is in its coalition is revealed as such, the official narrative is to pretend that element is under a unique threat from the American mainstream. Look at the media and Democrat reaction to the mass shooting at a Christian school in Nashville back in March. The shooter was Audrey Hale, a 28-year-old woman who identified as a man. She killed 3 children and 3 adults before police took her out. Hale was mentally unwell and left behind a kind of trans shooter manifesto, which was suspiciously never released to the public and still hasn't been. And the only reason I can think is that they're, yeah, like I said, trying to protect her for some reason. In the wake of the shooting, all we heard from the corporate press and Democratic leaders was that transgender Americans were under threat. Not a word about how transgender ideology attracts mentally unstable, unwell people who need help, not affirmation. That was not the conversation they wanted to have, even for the slaughter of 6 innocent people. Likewise, we're going to hear a lot more about how Muslims and left wing Hamas apologists are the real victims, even as Jewish students suffer escalating attacks, harassment, and threats. Make no mistake, the violent rhetoric you hear at these pro Hamas rallies, the revolting practice of tearing down posters of Israeli children taken hostage, the targeting of individual Jewish students on campus, it's all leading somewhere very bad. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to this, mainly because I am one of God's chosen people. I've said that a bunch of times, and I don't want this to happen to my people, but it doesn't seem like anything's being done to stop it. As I said at the very beginning, that the White House decided, Jews were being harmed and Muslims were the ones most affected, even though I think there was a statistic that I think from the FBI or somewhere that said that anti-Semitic hate crimes have risen like 388% in since last year. So yeah, clearly one of these things is a problem. One of these things is not. Then talking about in terms of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. So government, I know you're not going to be able to, but get your shit together and find out where the real problem is, you absolute morons. But I'm not expecting anything from this administration because it's the most incompetent administration we've had in my lifetime. But anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.